Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and all the freedom fighters and freedom lovers across this world. We come to you guys with another live update about how the Western globalists are a little bit upset with Israel and Netanyahu. Surprise, surprise. Joe Biden's administration are putting pressure on another country, Israel, and expecting them to bend over. That's basically the gist of it. Obviously, Americans still see themselves as the world police, and they try to tell people what to do, whether they are an ally like Israel or whether they're a foe like Iran. I mean, he spends more time giving money to the Iranian regime, 6 billion here, 10 billion there, that's normal. But the clash right now between Netanyahu and Sleepy Joe is about what's going to happen in Gaza going forward. So, seems like Joe Biden has been listening to Owen Jones at this point. I'm not sure if he actually has a proper plan, considering he's basically saying, can we slow down when it comes to Gaza, the operation, and can we not stay there? This is the big problem right now. So, the update that we have for you guys is confirmed by Reuters and Al Jazeera, both of them. The Biden administration is trying to stop things from getting worse, as they say. This is what they're saying in Gaza. But Netanyahu is not fully on board. Not surprising. The US is upset with the number of civilian casualties, and they're worried that obviously the public support for conflict is going down. He cares more about public opinion rather than the reality of the situation. We know that. Talks between Biden and Netanyahu are getting more tense as Netanyahu refuses to agree to a long truce, or what we would call a ceasefire, or as I say, surrender. You can only do sort of ceasefire or pause if the other side of the conflict is willing to negotiate, and if the other side of the conflict is actually, is one side that cares about a territorial issue or some sort of military problem. You have one side that is ideological, and they are prepared to lose their lives to go to heaven and meet their 72 virgins, regardless of the genders of those virgins, which is quite risky. It's a big gamble. What if all the virgins are men? So it's going to backfire massively on these guys. But it's okay, because Joe Biden has their backing. All right. The latest from this situation is the fact that Joe Biden is now telling another country that occupying another place is a bad idea. Literally, Biden said that occupying Gaza would be a big mistake. Coming from an American, a US Democratic president, and obviously a leadership that was involved when it came to 2001 and 2003 and every other conflict and any what we call occupation that America did, Afghanistan, Iraq and all that. I don't think the guy has any leg to stand on when it comes to telling other countries that occupying a place is a bad idea or a mistake. That's one issue. Now, it could be a mistake, and I think there's a conversation to be had because the Israeli government are not really completely logical, not all of them. That's why a lot of people in Israel are not supporting the Israeli government itself. They're supporting the troops, the IDF, and people in Israel, but there's a conflict when it comes to the political divide. Right now, put that aside. Right now, Jews, Christians, and Arabs who live in Israel, all they want is not be threatened. It's been 45 days, and we got the latest update today, that for the 45th day, again, Hamas attacked the Israeli side. They continue to do it. The media are not reporting it, but when we were there, we showed you the evidence that the rockets continue to come. So this is what's happening. So they know they can't really call a truce when the other side continues to target them. That's one thing. The hypocrisy of calling another country to occupying something else is a bad thing, mistake. But the US also believes that Netanyahu will eventually support the Palestinian Authority controlling Gaza. This is absolutely fascinating. They're rewriting history, history of the last 45 days. So what we heard from the beginning, after the first week, was that the Israelis were telling Mahmoud Abbas, can you take over from Gaza? In Gaza, just be in charge of that when we get rid of Hamas. It was in fact Mahmoud Abbas himself who was a coward who said, do I really have to? And he said, okay, but I have some conditions. And then that's how the whole thing collapsed. And now Americans saying, oh, it's our idea to get the Palestinian Authority and Mahmoud Abbas from the West Bank to take care of Gaza. But that was the original idea anyway. It was in fact the Palestinian Authority who ran away like idiots. So they have to sort out their own problems first before putting it on the Israelis, saying, oh, it's the Israelis who don't agree with it. At this point, they're not agreeing with it. And to be fair, the only logical solution short term is to have the Palestinian Authority in charge of Gaza, but if they are cooperating. So you still have parts of the West Bank still fighting back because of some of the sympathizers of Hamas being there. So if Mahmoud Abbas wants to be a reasonable leader, despite the fact that he's losing support every day, he should actually focus on this. And if he wants to start having the talks about the two-state solution, then be honest about it and be serious about it. How many times does the Israeli side have to offer or propose a two-state solution and gets rejected every time for these guys to take it seriously? Any sort of negotiations. Now, you can't negotiate with Hamas because that's not their point. They're ideological. They just want their virgins. But with Mahmoud Abbas and his gang, you can, on paper. On paper, you can negotiate. Because they want to be recognized by the United Nations properly. That's why. So that's happening. But we also have the latest breaking news for you guys as we speak over the last few hours. That Hezbollah from Lebanon have been targeting one of the parts of the northern side of Israel. And we have some footage. They've completely destroyed the northern border of Israel, parts of it obviously. Let's go to this video first. So that was earlier today, just now, and nothing. I'm still waiting for the likes of CNN or BBC to properly report and analyze, and political globalists to condemn Hezbollah and Lebanon for doing this. But it's also interesting how Netanyahu's government, for the past month or so, they keep saying, oh, well, if Hezbollah get involved, then we're going to wipe them out. How much more evidence does Netanyahu need of Hezbollah targeting Israel? Is this enough? What they did today? I mean, I'm not promoting conflict. I'm not saying, I'm just questioning his logic. Because if he's waiting for something else, and if he wants to just send a threat, a warning to Hezbollah, then fine, send a warning. But don't keep using the same card because it's no longer believable. If I were part of the leadership of Hezbollah, I would say, well, every day he keeps saying he's going to target us, so we could just keep going. It's just not a good idea. So you have to make up your mind. Are you going to just send a warning to Hezbollah? Or are you going to say, well, tomorrow if you target us, we're going to come out and wipe you out in Lebanon? They keep saying the same thing. And Hezbollah continues to target the northern side. So intense Hezbollah attack targets northern Israel. Israeli media sources report that today's attack on the north is the most intense since the beginning of the conflict. Hezbollah is said to have launched 25 missiles and shells, including, of course, one of these planes that they kind of do a suicide plane from Lebanon towards Kiryat Shimona. But also, let's not forget, there were also their own jihadists who technically the Hezbollah leadership didn't take responsibility for that, but all the others, Nasrallah and the leadership of Hezbollah, took responsibility for every single other attack, including today. Now, the attack is described as a combined assault involving anti-tank missiles and mortar shells and rocket launchers. Now, this was confirmed by Al Jazeera, Al Maidan, and Hezbollah's own Telegram channel. I love how in tune they are with technology, by the way, these guys. go on our Telegram channel and find out what Nasrallah is saying. But that's what they do all the time. He literally got all his supporters together in one place, but the man was a coward hiding in a basement with a big screen. Seriously, I don't understand how these idiots are still supporting the leadership, the billionaires, the billionaire leadership of Hamas and Hezbollah. So that's the evidence that we have. Trey Ying's, the correspondent, tweeted this image from the app that he has that gets the alerts 45 days into this conflict, and the rockets continue to come towards Israel and Tel Aviv. This is just the alerts that we have is about Tel Aviv. So you got the city center, across the Yarkon and the west side there, and all the other places. But throughout the day, every day, we get rockets across Israel. But again, the media are pretty silent about all this. They're more concerned about Sleepy Joe and why he's upset. And his globalist friends are upset with Israel because Israel are not listening to the Western globalists. Maybe they don't care anymore. Maybe we can't rely on the so-called Western globalist elite because they've been wrong about almost any conflict we've had over the last 40, 50 years. Look at every single attempt at preventing chaos or getting rid of enemies. I mean, apart from Kosovo, and that wasn't even actually their responsibility, you have a situation with Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, even going back, Vietnam, all those sacrifices, all those conflicts could have been handled differently. But the Western globalists love the never-ending conflicts. And of course, those weapon manufacturers, they love it. They make a lot of money. The vested interests are always there to win. But when it comes to real conflicts and humanitarian issues, oh, well, Joe Biden is not too happy about Israel defending itself. What does he expect? Him to negotiate with Haniyeh, for example, in Qatar? You do not negotiate with animals. That's the problem. It's not the same as, for example, Ukraine and Russia, which is a battle between a territorial battle, a strategical battle. It's not even the same between the West Bank and Israel with Mahmoud Abbas and Netanyahu. That's, again, you can negotiate with that. Ideally, you want a two-state solution anyway. Ideally, you want Christians, Arabs, and Jews just live peacefully next to each other without targeting each other. That's the ideal situation, but not everybody wants that. There is that group in Gaza right now underground, hiding. The rest of them are in Qatar. And the other nutters in the north, near Lebanon, they will not negotiate. So you do not negotiate. No truce, no ceasefire, no negotiation. And you have the backing of the Arab world now. You have from Bahrain to the West Bank themselves. Even Mahmoud Abbas and his team. They're saying, yeah, let's just get rid of them. The Hamas side. So fine. At this point, it should not be up to the United States of America telling the rest of the world how to live their lives. You're no longer the world police. It's not legitimate. But facts are facts, and these people are still in charge. That's the problem. Let's see. Dave O says, why should anyone be surprised that Sleepy Joe is turning the screw against Israel? Bring back the Donald. I mean, yeah, Trump, it would be more loyal and just supportive. And the good thing about Trump is that he's also not really an expansionist. He doesn't want to, he's not a neocon. He doesn't want to go out there and cause more conflict either. All you need is just show support, vocal support. It's the same we were saying about the Iranian people in Iran when they're doing the uprising against the Islamic occupiers of Iran. All we wanted from Joe Biden is just some vocal support. We don't need you to go start the conflict. And it would be nice if you don't give more money to the Iranian regime every week. That's all. Lisa Shaw says, Joe Biden is not God. I mean, I don't know if that means God or good, because they both could apply. Joe Biden is not good. Joe Biden is not God. He does believe he's God. He does believe he's the world police. It's the globalists, the liberal Democrats, the US Democrats, who believe that it's their job to run the world. Sir, please understand the American government does not represent the American people. We people support Israel. I mean, fortunately, if you are American, I can assure you, people watching this in Britain, people watching this from Europe and Israel, I'm going to speak on behalf of all of them. They are all very much aware the huge difference between the American establishment, government, and the American people. And that is the beauty of your country. The United States of America, the way the system is built, while it could be chaotic, but it is up to the people themselves. But it's created a good divide in a very good way. You can differentiate between an ordinary person in Colorado or Arizona or Texas and Sleepy Joe in the White House. Whereas you can't really say the same about some other countries. So I mean, for example, Gaza. Slightly more complicated than that. Paul Kelly, thank you so much for your super chat support. What is Jaydana saying? How China can say anything about the treatment of Gaza when they are treating the Uyghurs like they're not. Oh yeah, they're the Uyghurs. Yeah, the Uyghurs. They're like they're not human is a joke. They're just scared that their oil supplies will be cut off. What a disgrace! Exactly. I mean, everything goes back to resources anyway. One issue that we have, again, when you look at what happened in 1979, the paramilitary coup in Iran, essentially trained by CIA, supported by France. They got rid of the Shah of Iran. They got the Islamists in, thinking they could control them before the Soviet Union could, because it was all about the Cold War. Part of that was, don't forget, it was about the oil contracts as well, which was running out. So, but now, there is a new element in the globalist platform that we have, which is pushing for net zero, pushing for new sources of energy from solar and wind, because they want to be in the same game, but they don't want to be in a game of oil, because they want to move away from oil. And now you have the same people who have literally started conflicts over gas and oil all those years ago. Now they're jumping on a bandwagon of the net zero program. That's why you have all these presidents and prime ministers in the West saying, oh yeah, net zero is such a good idea. Because they know the narrative has changed. Obviously, they're all telling you, oh, you only have 2 years to live, alarmism. Forget about all that. This is all about business. It's always about money. The narrative changed because the influencers for the past few decades moved it from oil and gas. It's happening. The game is happening. And forget about Just Stop Oil. It's not about them. It's about all those people, the people who are funding Al Gore and all the others. They moved the debate towards other sources of energy. And now, the same prime ministers and presidents who would have started conflicts in the Middle East over oil, they now want to prevent it because there's a new toy in the store. That's the whole point. Then the money follows. All right. Anne Barnes, thank you so much for your super sticker support. I really, really appreciate this. Let's go back to the live chat. Chris says, Maya, GB News just showed a video of the hostages being taken into hospital, declared the hospital staff had no idea. I can confirm, Chris G, that 2CTV showed that footage first, before GB News, earlier today. Although I wasn't really the first either, but we already showed that on this channel with the live stream. Make sure, guys, to catch up with everything before... obviously thinking we haven't talked about it. We talk about everything eventually at some point. But yes, we've already showed that footage earlier this morning, this afternoon, about the evidence, the CCTV footage, which made it kind of obvious. Even Sky News had to admit that was happening, that there was Hamas activities there in the hospital, because the doctors and nurses were not shocked when the soldiers came with the hostages. But then Sky News still managed to find a reason to kind of say, well, is this good enough evidence? Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's go back to you guys. Cornish, Tony Blair started all this crap, remember? That's when you decide to vote Labour. I mean, to be fair, you cannot give so much credit to that idiot. Tony Blair just continued what the consensus was. But yes, when it comes to the latest mess in the Middle East, Blair, well, mostly Bush, Blair just followed him like a sheep. And people behind Bush and people behind that decision, actually. It's not really about the president or the prime minister. It's about those who called the shots. They were responsible for the mess. But this was, successive governments in the West, decades before, where they kept doing the same thing. They kept thinking they could just manage or rearrange the Middle East, not realizing the Middle East is a very messed up place, that with so many different cultures and mentalities and classes, that you can't say, well, I'm going to install this one as a dictator and wish for the best for the next 20, 30 years. What if he dies? And that's happened. Or you want to get rid of him now. It's crazy. But they keep doing it. Paul says the GB News are the new Sky News. Liars. Sarah also says, I stopped watching GB News. Well, there is TCTV. Why would you? And News channels, for some reason, will not stop interrupting guests to speak on Israel. They are rude and will not tell the truth, even when evidence is shown to them. God bless Maya Taker. Yes, I mean, that is so true. Also, and speaking of interviews, just another reminder, we are going to have a couple of families of hostages on this channel over the next few days for an exclusive interview as well. So make sure to tune in when it comes. There we go. It's this one. Maya, it wouldn't surprise me if it's not Biden, but that Muppet Obama that's pulling the strings. But glad you're back safe and sound. Yes, I mean, there's already been a lot of talks about Barack Hussein Obama's influence in the White House. He's been seen a lot. He's around quite a lot. And I would not be surprised if Obama is involved in some shape or form when it comes to the everyday big policy decision making in the White House, at least when it comes to foreign policy, because he still sees himself as the guy that won the Nobel Prize for peace, by the way. Yeah, how did Libya go, Barack? Yeah, no? Okay. What's this? Molly says, Maya, you should be ashamed of yourself. You know right well what's happening in Palestine. Shameful. What is Palestine, by the way? I'm still trying to find out. Show me on the map. What? So this is just vague. I'm not really sure what the accusation is. Of course I know what's happening. If you're talking about Gaza, yeah, there's a bunch of idiots who were elected by another bunch of idiots in 2006. And since then, they've been oppressing the people. And some of the people still in Gaza were still supporting the idiots, because they were celebrating when the 7th of October happened. And now the other people who were living there have been used as human shields, while the idiots were hiding in tunnels or in penthouses in Qatar. That's what's happening. Welcome to the real world, Molly. Let's go back to you guys. Maya of London News Updates. Actually, make sure to watch the update we did on ULEZ and Sadiq Khan, because it's getting juicy when it comes to ULEZ as well. Gary says, evening everyone. Please research Agenda 2030. Oh yeah, we've already covered all that, guys, on this channel. So if you're a new subscriber, I'm guessing Gary is probably a new subscriber. This channel talks a lot about all that stuff on a regular basis. And what's they saying? It's the truth on why the American governments are bringing in hundreds of millions of Africans and Asians into America and Europe. So yes, we've already covered and we've seen, obviously, what's been going on over the last couple of decades by the liberal establishments in the West, the globalists, and what they want to do with the idea of a version of one world government and open borders, because that's what they're saying. Obviously, it's not really us creating theories; it's coming from their own mouths. So I'm guessing Gary's new to the channel. Welcome to the channel, Gary. Yes, we talk a lot about those things as well on this channel. Where is Molly? Has Molly responded to me? I would love to have a debate. It's going to be fun. I'm in a mood. Jada Anna is speaking on my behalf. Molly, you should be ashamed of yourself. Good. What else do we have in the live chats? Yes, we all know what's happening. There are Israeli grandmothers and babies in the tunnels. Absolutely, they're still hiding the hostages. Also, it keeps saying what's happening in Palestine. I love how the Roman Empire literally created the word Philistines as an insult to the Jews. And then overall, over time, it was also insulting to the Arabs who kept moving there. And some of those Arabs embraced the word, well, Palestine, and now it's called Palestine in English. I'm like, why? You fell for the trick coming from the Roman Empire. Instead of actually having your own self-determination and your own brain to come up with your own tribe and just have a country or something, whatever you want to have. Firstly, they also failed because they just left that land there. When they got rid of them, well, they sent out, got rid of the Jews at the time, so many times. You just had chaos there and no one in charge. So empires always ruled over that land. And somehow said, yeah, you know that word that was insulting to basically both sides? Yeah, we are Philistines. So stupid. Anyway, where is Molly? Is she still in the chat? Yeah, probably not. I think she's gone crying. Oh no, that's a shame. Tess says, obviously Hamas in Gaza and Fatah in the West Bank are political rivals. Yep. If an election was held jointly in Gaza and the West Bank, Hamas would win. Yep. That's why Fatah don't want to take on the running of Gaza. Yeah, can someone explain this to Joe Biden? Because he seems to be all over the place. Again, if it's Obama telling him what to do and people like Hillary Clinton, then we have bigger problems because these people clearly have a different agenda. Because he's going around, as I said, the fallout, if you just join us late, the whole point of this is that Biden is not happy with Netanyahu saying, can you stop defending yourself? Self-defense is bad. And don't go into Gaza too much. The terrorists are there, so you have no option. Then he said, well, occupying Gaza is also a big mistake, coming from the guy who literally occupied many countries in the Middle East, Iraq, Libya, and, well, not Libya technically, Afghanistan. And then he says, well, we've been pushing Netanyahu to get the Palestinian Authority to control Gaza. That idea came from Tel Aviv. They came up with it. It was, in fact, the West Bank that said, nah, I don't want to do it. For the reasons we just had in the live chat, that comment. Because they know how much trouble it's going to be to control Gaza. So now, the Israelis are saying, well, we're going to have to stay there until at least we get rid of the nutters. I mean, no one has a perfect solution. We know that. But there's no leadership, any opposition from Gaza either. Where are the good people in Gaza? Well, those are obviously those who are still around. Where are the leadership for any opposition? Doesn't exist because the nutters have completely eliminated any sort of shape of opposition over the last, well, almost 20 years. So you can't expect any miracle from that land. And the problem is, if you're going to get the Israelis to completely take over, which again, I don't think I'll be in favor of if they don't have a proper plan, because firstly, it's not your place. And it wasn't supposed to be that place. And what are you going to do with the people? If you're going to get rid of every single civilian in Gaza without any evidence if they're supporting Hamas or not, then you can't call it Gaza anymore if they're not there. And as in, like, it would not be the same. And well, you're going to send all the Jews to live there? And if you're going to bring them back, all the civilians, then how are you going to actually manage them? How are you going to know which one of them are sympathizers or not? It's a lose-lose situation right now. And this is one of those situations where, again, I'm not in favor of the United Nations because it's been an absolutely stupid and outdated organization. But on paper, theoretically, this should have been the job of the UN that was set up to do all those years ago. That's what they said. The whole point of the UN was to manage emergencies and crises and do world peace, right? What do they do? Oh, they just have votes every week to condemn Israel. Even when nothing's happening, by the way. Imagine it's like a Tuesday in June in 1994. Nothing's happening right now. They just have regular votes in the chamber in New York just condemning Israel for no reason. It's just fun. So stupid. Is Molly still around? I don't know why I'm obsessed with that comment. It was just funny. Let's go back to you guys. Elma says, America, the world police. Well, they used to be, but now they have become the new comedy sketch with the idiotic American government under the puppet and Biden and the brainless VP. This is actually a sad reality that we have a situation where both the president and the vice president are stupid. Usually you had one. Now you got both. Completely out of touch with reality, which is kind of funny. But it exposed the failure and the weakness of America as the world police. Firstly, as I've been saying before, Americans were never supposed to become the world police. But obviously, since the Brits abdicated essentially that responsibility when they devolved the British Empire, and I would like to use that word rather than saying got abolished. It devolved into the Commonwealth. Compared to all the other empires that fell and everything chaos happened, we still have so many countries from the former colonies who are now part of the Commonwealth. But Britain felt ashamed. We can't really police the world anymore. Who can do it? Oh, well, the guys who saved us in the 40s, America. Do you want to do it? And there was an element of neocons already in America who said, yeah, we'll be the world police. The rest of America was completely against it. America was supposed to be a huge Switzerland. A nationalist, libertarian country. Just leave us alone. No one's forcing you to come here. We're not going to come there. If you choose to come here, you come voluntarily. If you survive, then you'll live and you'll be fine. You'll thrive. If not, you'll die. It's the Wild West, but slightly more modern. That was supposed to be the point of America. But then we got them involved, and they were always children, the establishment, when it comes to policing the world. Everything's gone down since the 20th century because of that. And those who are going to say, well, what about the Soviet? They brought down the Soviet. That was not America. There was obviously cooperation, massive cooperation. Give massive credit to Reagan, but also Thatcher, and an element of the team behind Gorbachev, and all the other tiny regions who became independent countries eventually after the fall of the Soviet, who were rising up anyway. And the Soviet internally became divided. So you can't give all credit to the deep state of the White House and the Pentagon for bringing down the Soviet Union. They were absolutely resilient against the Soviet during the Cold War period. Absolutely. Credit to America. Well done. They led the world. But it was because of a few of the good leaders they had, including Reagan. Chaotic Null. I hear you're Iranian now, Maya. I hear you're racist now, Father. Right. The Brits would know the reference. Okay, Brian. We got an American here. Yank here. The real tragedy is continuing the US support for Iran. Yep. Last week, President Biden waived sanctions on Iran, and this after releasing $6 billion in funds to Iran as part of last month's prison swap deal. Yes, we did talk about this a couple of days ago, on this channel as well, about the Americans giving more money to Iran. It's just weird how there is still an element of technically grown-up adults in Washington, D.C. who've seen the failure of foreign policy over the last few years, and they continue to do the same thing. Fran says, Molly, where are you? Yeah, I think Molly's gone, unfortunately. Anyway, I thought I'd give you a quick update on Joe Biden having this meltdown because Netanyahu is not listening to him, because apparently everyone has to listen to the US president. No. And we're going to come back later, hopefully, with more updates. Please feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to support the channel and help us remain independent. Otherwise, what do I always say? If you don't help us remain independent, I'm going to go sell out to some big financial backer, globalist, sell my soul. If the way to do that, the link is in the description. Join our community on Locals. Locals is part of Rumble, free speech. You can become a member there. You get some extra content and bonus content, members only content, and you can get in touch with me directly, and you can support the channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.